In this lesson, we're going to see how we can create another powerful table in Excel called the pivot table. In the last lesson, I showed you how you can create table in Excel, and then we have created our table from our data. If you have not watched that video, please go back and watch that video on how to create tables. So once you have created your table, we can then create a pivot table. Pivot table is a powerful feature in Excel that helps us to summarize our data and helps us to organize our data easily. So to create a pivot table, come to Insert here. At the table panel here, we have pivot table. And its pivot table says is easily arrange and summarize complex data in a pivot table. For your information, you can double click a value to see which data values make up the summarized data. So once you click on pivot table, then we see create pivot table, and then we see choose the data that you want to analyze. Then you can select the range of data you have in your table. Now we have created a table, and then we have table 1 here, which is the whole range of data we are analyzing based on the table we have created in the previous lesson. And then if you have data from an external source, you can use this, or if you have it in a workbook data model, you can use this. And then the next thing is you choose where you want the pivot table report to be placed. You can decide to place it in a new worksheet, or you can also place it in this existing worksheet. If you want to place it in this existing worksheet, you have to specify the cell locations where you want the pivot table to be displayed. But in this example, I'll prefer new worksheets. Then choose whether you want to analyze multiple tables. If you want to analyze multiple tables, then you click on add this to data model. But for this example, we are not going to this extent. So once you are done with this, click OK. And then we have our pivot table in a new sheet. So if you look at this side here, we have the pivot table feeds, and you would see all the feeds we have in our data: customer ID, age, product type, product category, unit price, quantity, and revenue. So we can now start creating our pivot table using all these feeds. Now if you look here, you see filter, column, rows, and values. So let's assume I want to see the product, I want to see the revenue of each product category that we have. So I'll click on revenue and drag it to values here. Then you will see the sum of revenue. Then I can now slice it by product category. Drag the product category here, and then I have it displayed here. So from this pivot table, I can easily summarize my data set. So I have accessories, and then this is sum revenue for accessory, clothing, glass, shoe. I can also decide to filter it by any of these fields. Let me filter it by product type. I move product type to filter here, and then you will see it here. Once you click on this drop down arrow, then you see the product type that we have, and then you can filter by any of these product type. Also, I can, if I want to, now here I have the sum revenue. I might decide to check for the average revenue. To do that, I'll just double click on this, and then this value feed settings will come up, and then the functions I want to use are here. So I can just select any of these functions. Let me go with average, and then you can change the name here. If you want it to be average of revenue, you can leave it, or whatever name you want to give to it, you change it here. So once you click OK, now you see average of each of the product category displayed here. Also, I can decide to format this. Since this is in currency, I can change it to dollar. So let me just highlight everything, come back to my home tab and change it to dollar, and also do the same thing for this. So I might decide to add another value. For instance, let me see the unit price of each of the accessories of each of the product category. So I have it here, the sum of unit price. Okay, I can also decide to see the average unit price from here. Okay, I can also decide to add another value, which is quantity, to see. Now this should not be in currency, so I just remove this. I change it to general. Okay, so this is sum of quantity, average revenue for each of the product category, and average unit price. So pivot table basically is to help summarize our data and then to help us to analyze it more better. However, there are more better features in Excel than pivot table, and then in subsequent lessons we are going to see that. In the next lesson, I'll show you how we can also create the pivot chart. Thank you.